Welcome, I'm Kamuro Tetsuo and you're watching Death Count, and let's talk about Dragon Ball. Or more specifically, let's talk about Android 21's backstory in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Before we begin, let's start by addressing the big dinosaur in the room. Is the storyline of Dragon Ball canon or non-canon? And the answer is non-canon. Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, had no involvement in the actual story of Dragon Ball FighterZ. For those of you that actually beat the third arc of the storyline, you get the credits for the game that say Dragon Ball FighterZ original story Akira Toriyama, Suisha Shonen Jump. I can see this being an argument point because you see Dragon Ball FighterZ above Akira's name, then you see story, and that can make you be like, what? Akira Toriyama made the story of Dragon Ball FighterZ? Which automatically means sexy waifu Android 21 is canon! No, calm down, it's not what that means. If you look at it closely again, it says original story, which is referring to the manga of Dragon Ball as a whole. That's why underneath Akira's name you see Shueisha Shonen Jump. This is the manga publisher that prints the Dragon Ball manga made by Akira into their magazine. So who wrote the story? Well, Bandai Namco did. How about Android 21? Akira Toriyama designed Android 21's appearance, and that's it. That's the extent of Akira's involvement in Dragon Ball FighterZ. He didn't even write her backstory, to be even more precise. Like I said, he only designed her appearance. So the story is non-canon. Is the character Android 21 canon? Well, that's up to Akira to decide. As of right now, unknown. So let's start with where and when would this story actually take place if it were canon in the anime/manga? One specific cutscene gives us this answer, and that cutscene is when a revived Captain Ginyu has a conversation with a revived Perfect Cell, where Ginyu decides he doesn't want to take Cell's body for his own via body change. The reason being Cell having the same pattern, color as the frog that Ginyu was trapped into for so long.
Ah, yes, I see it now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is you're prattling on about, but keep comparing me to a frog and see what happens.
This automatically tells us that this is after the events of Golden Frieza's return to Earth in order to fight Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku, and Vegeta on Dragon Ball Super. That being said, the story technically starts with the activation of Android 21 from one of the many hidden Red Ribbon Army laboratories. The game never says it outright, but I'm going to assume that this is once again one of the many hidden labs built by Dr. Gero. She is far more superior than Perfect Form Cell and is way more intelligent than Dr. Gero himself. Her activation is not seen in the actual game, by the way. You do however see the pod that she comes out of. It's not also clear who or what activates her. It's a very high possibility that a supercomputer was keeping her dormant while it was implementing upgrades to her cellular structure. In the end of it all, she has the cellular structure of humans, Saiyans, Namekians, the Frieza race, and her newest addition, Majin cells. The Majin cells must have been acquired sometime during Majin Buu's or Super Buu's rampage on Earth. You're probably extremely curious to know, and probably the main reason why you're watching this video is to know if she had a life before being an android. And the answer is yes. And I will explain that just in a bit. So as soon as 21 was either activated by the supercomputer, or perhaps she woke up herself due to the Majin cells in her body causing her to become unstable with hunger spikes, which forced her to awaken. Regardless of which one it is, she more than likely wandered the inside of the lab she was in and started to read and gather intel from possibly the supercomputer that was there. She eventually started to repair an extra deactivated model of Android 16 that was lying around the lab. She did this because she faintly remembered a memory of her past life, and seeing 16 reminded her of someone she knew from her human life. She actually talks about that in the game via cutscene.
Sorry for all the trouble I've been causing. I need to pull myself together so 16 won't have to worry anymore. Make no mistake, I didn't repair him just so he could worry about me.
This confirms that Android 21 is technically a cyborg, much like 17 and 18. She even went as far as to include the recent memories of Android 16 up to the Cell games, which was probably being transmitted via Wi-Fi over to the laboratory that Android 21 was being, worked on by the supercomputer. Via Wi-Fi, I mean, I don't know, we have 3G and 4G. I think we have 5G now, but maybe Dr. Giro had 7G. I don't know, I'm just saying. Sorry. She unfortunately doesn't hardly remember anything, mainly because of the Majin cells slowly taking over her body. That is presumably what we are expected to believe. However, it's very hard to say. It could have been maybe Dr. Giro intentionally erased her memories, maybe during the transfer procedure over to her new body. It's hard to say. There's really no hard evidence, and the game doesn't straight out tell you, so you just have to assume here. She is also constantly struggling throughout the story in order to keep the Majin cells in her body under control. She eventually gets to the point to where she separates into two forms, much like Majin Buu does during Dragon Ball Z. Android 21 separates into a good form, which is caring and kind, and an evil form, which wants to devour everything in sight. The evil version is playable in the game. I would have really enjoyed being able to play as the good, kind, and caring Android 21, beating the crap out of people online while she's saying, "Sorry, I'm so sorry, gominasai."
Please forgive me.
Anyway, story-wise, that's as far as I actually want to cover Android 21 in the Dragon Ball FighterZ story because it's non-canon. However, her backstory is actually in Dragon Ball FighterZ storyline. Somewhat. Pieces of it are in the Dragon Ball FighterZ storyline. Like I've said before, Akira Toriyama didn't actually create the backstory for her, but her backstory is actually really interesting, and that's kind of what makes her character right now. So if Akira were to use Android 21 eventually in his own work, I'm pretty sure he'll keep the framework of her story because that's her character now. Of course, he can do whatever he wants. He can change her up how he wants because it's his character, but she's already making a pretty big, what's the correct word? Maybe I shouldn't use pretty big. I should use maybe, she's a vast, deviant art. That's not right either. I don't really know what the word I'm trying to look for here is. I think I'm gonna edit this out. So let's talk about Android 21's backstory. When she was human, she confirms that she had a child. That child ended up growing up and joined the Red Ribbon Army, where his father was head scientist at the time. I'm sure you Dragon Ball fans know what I'm talking about here. The child's father's name is Dr. Giro. Now, these events happened before Kid Goku destroys the Red Ribbon Army on Dragon Ball, by the way. So Giro's and human Android 21 son eventually died during a battle that the Red Ribbon Army was involved in. Some people believe that maybe it was when Kid Goku attacked the Red Ribbon Army HQ and killed pretty much everyone there. That could be true, but we really don't know. All we do know is that Dr. Giro eventually made a fully robot android that was based appearance-wise and perhaps even replicated his behavior to an extent to be like his and human Android 21's son. That android is 16. All this falls together when 21 says,
Before I was turned into an android, and I was a mother and I had a son. Later, he became the model for Android 16 and all that it would achieve.
So now you probably have questions like, so wait, is Dr. Giro and Android 21, or when she was human, were they married? And honestly, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. All I do know is that Android 21 does wear a ring on her hand, and it looks like a wedding ring, but we really don't know. I think she's wearing it on the wrong finger anyways. And as far as her becoming an android, something tells me that maybe she didn't agree into becoming one. It's all still a mystery, unfortunately, and we may never know unless Akira decides to use her himself. So in terms of backstory, that's all I pretty much have, or that we have on Android 21. I would really like to see Akira's take on her and see what kind of story he could use her in if that ever happens. So what do you all think? Is she a character worth keeping and making official in the Dragon Ball canon lore? Or are you just tired of the Red Ribbon Army in general and think that maybe we should leave it behind us and move on? Which we technically are moving on because Akira's doing Super, of course. If you really want to see more videos like this Dragon Ball lore, maybe of other characters or maybe the movie characters, or if anything is canon and not canon, just let me know. Hit that like button and write down in the comments of any topics. It's whatever you guys want to do. If you didn't like this video, hit that dislike. I mean, you're in control. You're in control of what you want to do. I make videos as long as they make you happy. So as long as you're happy, I'm happy. And other than that, I just make videos. But anyways, I'm Kamel Tetsuo, and you just watched the Death Count video. And like always, rock on.
Death count activated.